When Mother's Day means celebrating your mom, your wife, maybe even your daughter as a new mom, trust 1-800-Flowers to help you celebrate every important woman in your life. With double blooms from 1-800-Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen for free. It's a simple way to give beautifully, with colorful blooms that make Mother's Day feel meaningful. For every mom you're celebrating, order with confidence and get double blooms at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
Breaking news for your home. Wayday. Wayfair's big sale is almost here, and you can score the best deals in home. Like up to 80% off everything home. Yes, you heard that right. 80% off with free shipping on everything. Plus surprise flash deals all Wayday long. We're talking outdoor furniture and essentials, rugs, and more. All at Wayfair, and all up to 80% off during Wayday. Shop Wayfair's Wayday from April 25th through 27th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
A 6-year-old girl uses her telekinetic powers to get revenge on the headmistress at her school. Listen as we discuss napping on a universal line, non-cooperative union bus drivers, and a movie pitch about discus throwers. Then we see if 1996's Matilda stands the test of time.
Today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Test of Time. My name is Alan Noah, and joining me, as always, is the Miss Trunchbull to my Matilda, you, James Brief.
If anything, maybe I'm
Miss Honey?
Sure, I'll be Miss Honey. I'm the one that finds your weirdness actually has a certain charm to it.
Okay, I take that back. You can be Miss Honey.
Well, if you are my Matilda, I'll be your Miss Honey.
All right. Well, I'm excited to get into Matilda and talk about this movie. But first, I wanted to tell you about our spring break trip. Me and Courtney and the kids, we went to Orlando. We did a day at the Disney parks, and we did a day at Epic Universe, the new Universal park that has all of the Nintendo stuff. It was awesome. The Mario Kart ride is really cool. Maybe I'm biased because I got the high score out of the 4 of us, although it does break down regularly, apparently. And while we were online, there was like maybe a 45-minute delay just while we were waiting for the ride to be fixed, which was annoying. Although, real talk, I kind of used it as an opportunity to get a little nap, so it was kind of okay. The store in Super Nintendo World is huge and massive, and it's all character stuff. It's all about Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Bowser, Peach, Toad.
Not even Pokemon? There's no Pokemon at all?
No, there's no Pokemon. Most of the section is Mushroom Kingdom, and then there's a Donkey Kong section. So there's a decent amount of Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong stuff.
You know, it's surprising that they didn't have Pokemon, in my opinion, because that is still very big with kids.
Oh, sure.
But the Super Mario Galaxy movie is out, and it's been doing massive numbers. I mean,
sure.
Despite mixed reviews, I'd say, as compared to the first one.
It's not as good as the first one. I saw it with the kids.
That's not surprising. What about Zelda? Link, Zelda, any of that stuff there? Or was that not part of the experience?
There's no Zelda theming in the park. There was a little bit of merch in the store, but I think that's probably what they'll do next, I would imagine. You know, have like a Hyrule section.
I mean, there is going to be a Zelda movie. I assume they're going to want to really hype it. There hasn't been a Zelda game for the Switch 2 yet. I'm just surprised they're not really hyping up Zelda yet and really trying to get even these implanted in the 4 or 5-year-olds that it's their favorite thing. You know, they got a Link stuffed animal and that becomes their favorite character. I'm just surprised they're not doing that.
Oh, it's also a little surprising that the Donkey Kong section, it's all Donkey Kong Country. It doesn't have anything to do with Donkey Kong Bonanza, the new game. I imagine the theme park was in development for a long time, the rides, the theming and everything but also the game must have been too. And don't get me wrong, I love Diddy Kong, but to me it was a little surprising that there's nothing with Donkey Kong and Pauline, who's the sidekick in the new game.
I think Pauline is still a little bit like, wait, you mean the girl from Donkey Kong? If they know her at all. And by Donkey Kong, I mean Donkey Kong 1983.
But she was in Mario Odyssey, and she's in the new Mario Kart, and she's the sidekick in Donkey Kong Bonanza.
And I think, doesn't technically Nintendo say that Mario and Peach are friends? Isn't that their official relationship?
So it's complicated. I think it was on the AV Club. They had a whole long thing about it. And in the new Mario Galaxy movie, Mario is trying to ask Peach out on a date. So I don't know how the movies fit in with canon in the games, but yeah, their relationship status is kind of a question mark.
Well, mostly how does it fit in with the John Leguizamo, Bob Hoskins? How is that canon fitting into the latest amusement park?
That is not canon. That is completely ignored by everyone forever, except for us two idiots when we did an episode on that movie. But by and large, that is just ignored by everyone. And that's for the best. But let's get into Matilda. So you picked this movie, James. Had you seen it before?
No. I was thinking, hey, who doesn't love a good Danny DeVito? 2 hours, and not even 2 hours. This is a very lean film. It's like a little over an hour and a half. Roald Dahl. You got Mara Wilson. Probably best known to a lot of people as the sweet little girl from Mrs. Doubtfire. Mm-hmm. I figured let's give it a shot.
Sure. So why don't you tell our listeners what the movie is all about, James?
Sure. The movie is based on the eponymous Roald Dahl novel, and it follows a brilliant but neglected young girl named Matilda Wormwood. Now, Matilda is ignored by her parents and terrorized by her school's headmistress, Miss Trunchbull. Luckily, Matilda finds kindness in her gentle teacher, Miss Honey. She trusts Miss Honey so much that she confides in her that she has these secret telekinetic powers. Using her intelligence and her newfound abilities, Matilda pranks her parents, gets revenge on Miss Trunchbull, and gets justice for Miss Honey, leading to Miss Honey adopting her.
Aww. Okay, so this movie came out in 1996, 30 years ago. How did it do at the box office?
Generally, if you want to make a movie based on a beloved Roald Dahl movie, do not do it. They are almost always box office misses, but they are usually box office duds that do much better later. One of the most infamous flops that becomes, a moneymaker later was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. We talked about this, and people have heard about this, that it was a big flop when it came out, but subsequent reruns made it the huge hit it was. Steven Spielberg had a flop, the BFG. You ever see that one?
I remember falling asleep watching that one. I was not into that movie.
And it was a flop as well. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the one with Johnny Depp, that was a smash success that I think kind of had the opposite, that people kind of don't really talk about these days. But this film, it had a decent-sized budget for a mid-90s film, $36 million in the mid-30s. It came out late summer, August 2nd, 1996. It opened at number 3 with $8.2 million. Ultimately, the $36 million film, it grossed $33 million domestically, $47 million worldwide. But this film has been released a lot of times. In 2023, a 4K restoration was made, Ultra Blu-ray, Dolby remasters. So my guess is that there's a market for this, meaning this film probably in the end made some money for the producers. It's a family film. It might need time to build word of mouth.
Gotcha. I've talked about voiceover so many times on this podcast. This movie does have voiceover. It has the same thing that I always complain about, where it's telling you stuff that you can clearly see. I think maybe in this movie you give it a little bit of a pass because it's a kid's movie, and so maybe being extra clear is more important than being subtle. Fine, whatever. But I do think that this movie's voiceover is just really confusing because it's Danny DeVito.
Right.
And Danny DeVito has a very unique, recognizable voice, and he is the kind-hearted narrator and also one of the movie's villains, Mr. Wormwood, the abusive father. And it sometimes goes from nice, sweet Danny DeVito voice as narrator to mean Danny DeVito voice as Mr. Wormwood. It's confusing. It's jarring. It's really strange. And, Danny DeVito directed the movie. He stars in the movie.
And produced it.
It's just a weird choice that he made himself the narrator.
Right when I heard the voiceover, I was like, oh, this is giving away that maybe this is all being voiced over by the father. And maybe he's a mean guy at first and something's going to happen. I knew nothing about the plot of this film. But in the end, it is not the father who's doing the voiceover. I thought that was going to be one of those, surprise bookends, that it was like, maybe it was the father talking to a Matilda and he's an old man.
He's learned his lesson in the future.
Exactly. That's the character arc of him. That'd be perfectly fine.
Sure.
But you're right. It's confusing. And I happen to think that the voiceover works very nicely because I have to assume that parts of this film are lifted directly from the novel because there's some wonderful dialogue in this film, like the "I'm big, you're little, I'm right, you're wrong."
Yeah.
It's just so well delivered by the two bad guys in this film. Did you read it?
I'm trying to remember. I know we have a big box set of a lot of Roald Dahl books, and I remember reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the BFG, James and the Giant Peach. I don't remember specifically if we read Matilda.
I never read it.
This movie is known as being a fairly faithful adaptation of the book, and it's interesting because it is a story that's about believing in yourself and discovering your true potential and found family and wonderful things like that. It's also about child abuse and about two different kinds of child abuse. At home, it's emotional abuse and neglect. And then at school with Trunchbull, that's physical abuse. But with the home stuff, with the Wormwoods, I think the movie is able to handle the emotional abuse in a way that feels appropriate for a family-friendly movie where even though emotional abuse and neglect are not laughing matters in the real world, it deals with them in a way that is lighthearted and a gentle touch and, a little comedic when, the parents don't remember how old Matilda is and she says she's 6.5 and they're saying that she's 4 and then the mom is negotiating like, okay, fine, 5 then. It's a way to sort of make this very serious topic approachable and not terrifying for kids who are watching the movie.
It's a child story, but it's not an infantilizing story. Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised when I heard the word suicide. I was like, whoa, that would be so controversial today if you put this in a film marketed at children.
Yeah, but that's like backstory. That's Miss Honey's backstory. So it's not like a thing that you see in the movie.
I mean, I guess today they could have easily just said he died.
Yeah.
He died under mysterious circumstances.
Or maybe call it an accident, quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly. But I even think the casting of this film is, let's set aside Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman because they're fantastic. I mean, I've only seen Rhea Perlman really in Cheers and this and probably, scattered other small things. She's always great in what she's done. Danny DeVito, enough is said about him. He's a fantastic actor, plays this role great. He can play sweet or evil very well. But I want to talk about Mara Wilson for a moment.
Okay.
She is a very captivating actress.
Yeah.
I think immediately I take Mara Wilson very seriously as a child, as an actress who's a child.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be a little more whimsical, a little bit more PG, what 2026 would say about PG. And this was a little bit more surprisingly 1972, Charlie and Chocolate Factory. There's some dark stuff in here, and you need some child actors who can kind of handle this.
I agree with you that Mara Wilson handles the material well. It's a fine line because she is adorable, but she's not over the top, annoyingly precocious. And that's not easy to do. I think the movie does a really good job of balancing the dark stuff and the lighthearted tone at home in the family scenes. When it gets to the school and the Trunchbull, then I feel like there is more of a disconnect between the serious stuff and the stuff that's played for laughs. Like when we first meet Trunchbull, she is physically abusing these kids. And yeah, it's supposed to be silly that she picks up the girl by her pigtails and, does a hammer throw with her and, spins her around and tosses her over the fence. You're supposed to understand this is a world where there's magic and you're not supposed to take it super literally. But when she starts physically abusing these kids, maybe it's because I'm a father, but I was thinking, how is she getting away with this? How is it that no one is reporting this? There's a throwaway line where one of the girls says, well, if you told your parents, would they believe you? And Matilda says, no. And sure, because she has terrible parents, but surely with all of those kids there, some parent would believe something.
Well, I think it's very clear that this takes place in what I would call kind of a Dr. Seuss cartoony world.
Fair.
I mean, it's the kind of thing where there's a little gag in the beginning that she plays on her dad, and he puts this peroxide in his hair, and he has kind of a perfectly blonde hairdo. And even that, I mean, that's not the reality of if he put his peroxide in his hair for 5 seconds and washed it out in his shampoo.
Right.
There's a scene where literally there's a boy thrown out a window, and he flies back into the room.
Sure, but I feel like in this world, there are a very limited number of adults. And not even just in the whole world, but in this school, there's Trunchbull and Miss Honey and presumably other teachers. The kid, Bruce, who has to eat the chocolate cake, he's in another class.
Yeah.
So he has another teacher, not Miss Honey. Where's that teacher? In the book, apparently there was another supervisor at the school who becomes the new principal after Trunchbull is gone, and that character's not in the movie. But she puts the kids in the chokey, which is like an Iron Maiden kind of a thing with jagged nails and sharp glass poking out. A kid goes in there, they're going to come out with lacerations. They're going to come out bleeding. They're going to go home, and a parent's going to say, what the fuck? And march over to the school and see what's up.
I actually thought that the pokey was a situation where you're basically going to have to be the chokey. It's not exactly an Iron Maiden. I think it's where you have to contort yourself in such an awkward position and stand there for as many hours as Miss Trenchball puts you there, or otherwise there are needles right next to you.
I guess. And I know I'm doing the annoying Alan thing of being a little too literal about it, but with Bruce and the chocolate cake scene, which is very memorable. What the Trunchbull is doing, I do love that they call her the Trunchbull, by the way. It's the same thing of a kid who's caught smoking a cigarette or drinking a beer, and then the parent says you have to smoke the whole pack or drink the whole 6-pack or whatever. He has to eat this huge, giant chocolate cake, and that is not an appropriate thing for a headmistress to be doing at school. It is abuse. You imagine that kid's going to be horrifically ill after eating that big giant cake, but also it's fun. It's a fun scene. It's a silly scene. My kids loved it when they were little, cheering on the kid who's just shoving all of the cake in his mouth. I like the tone of that scene right up until the Trunchbull takes the serving glass that the cake was on and smashes it over Bruce's head. At that point, I was really taken out of the scene because I'm like, well, now this kid has a head injury. He's got a concussion. Now you took the fun, silly, whimsical, eat all this chocolate cake thing into, well, now he's really hurt kind of a vibe. And I felt like the movie didn't nail the balance of this is abuse, but it's also fun and whimsical, but also it's terrifying. And that's a hard needle to thread. But I just felt like it didn't nail it.
Almost it's actually probably beneficial that it did break because, imagine she slammed him with the tray and it didn't break, that glass tray.
Sure.
That'd be even worse. But this is a slight on how evil Miss Trunchbull is. I don't think Bruce got injured at all.
Sure.
But you're right. I mean, this is a horribly abusive, physically abusive woman.
Yes. And definitely not the point. But after she smashes him on the head, she says that all the kids have to stay at school late for 5 hours or something. And then we do see Matilda getting off the bus at home very late. And, the parents are like, where have you been? This is me doing my as a father bit. It doesn't matter that Trunchbull is the intimidating headmistress. Those bus drivers are in a union. They're not going to sit around for 5 hours and drive all those kids home just because she tells them to. Very much not the point. I know, but whatever.
I have to say, it was almost two different films. You kind of touched on it earlier. There's the first half, which is kind of just the abusive parents, and then the second half, which is her in school. The first half, I had a little bit of an eye roll because there's one trope sometimes I'm okay with it. I generally dislike child genius tropes.
Okay.
And right away, you saw this 1-year-old who was spelling out the word Matilda in food.
Right.
I think she might have even been an infant, possibly doing that. And I'm like, all right. But I think that they handled her genius well because they do the stuff where she can add better than everyone else.
Well, multiply, it's not adding.
Well, I mean, he had a few things, 3 cars, and then
the
each one,
profits. Yeah.
Right, and Miss Honey does a multiplication thing. I think in combination, her genius probably is a little bit to do with her telekinesis. She just has an advanced brain. They did do the really annoying trope about humans use 10% of their brain kind of thing.
Yeah.
Fine, that's a Hollywood thing, fine.
Right.
But I do like the slow buildup of her powers. That the first thing was she got very mad at something on the television. I think they forced her to turn off the light reading a Moby Dick.
Right, because they're watching this stupid game show hosted by John Lovitz.
Yeah, John Lovitz, right. Is it sticky or something? The child genius, because it wasn't a child genius. Her genius actually really does not amount to anything in the end. It's just she's actually a brave girl. She loves Miss Honey, and then she does have superpowers. But she's more clever than she is like super genius, and I appreciated that.
Right. Writing her name in the soup when she's an infant, that's eye roll worthy. I think the part about her just being really independent because she is neglected, that makes sense. Obviously, I don't neglect my kids, but I do have very independent kids. I chalk a lot of that up to COVID when they just kind of had to figure some stuff out, schoolwork and life stuff while we were working from home. Shitty thing that happened, but I think kids can become independent when they have to. And so that part I felt was fair. I felt like, okay, yeah, she's neglected, so she's going to learn how to get herself to the library and get books and read on her own because she can't just sit around all day waiting to sign for the illegal car parts to come in the mail. By the way, very stupid way to get illegal merchandise delivered to your home address via the U.S. mail. Like, he has a business. Like, shouldn't it be sent there on an unmarked truck or something?
Oh, he even justifies that he doesn't send it to the business or anywhere else because he's being clever and, like, they won't be able to trace him.
Right. Like, yeah, this isn't much better.
And also how, like, some of the car parts are, like, shaped like mufflers as they're wrapped.
Right.
It's very cartoonish, and I appreciate it. So there is this subplot that the father he's a crook, but he's, in the beginning, he's just kind of used car salesman crook, where he's like, it's a great car, and, he's doing that shady stuff of, like, he's slimy, where he's, like, making it sound good with the sawdust in the engine.
Yeah.
But then when he's actually doing illegal things of the car parts, he stepped into that line. But Matilda still wants to protect him.
Right.
And she foils the police.
Yeah.
And takes away this video cassette that's going to put him away, even though the FBI agent clearly says how they're going in without a warrant. But still, what we get on this is going to do well.
It's such good evidence that the judge won't care. Like,
exactly.
No, that's not how it works.
Exactly. It doesn't count at all. So
right.
I was thinking that is the single worst thing you could do is to get the best possible, nailed on evidence, but you got it the wrong way.
Right. And Paul Rubens as a non-Pee-wee character, as one of the FBI agents. Apparently, Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to be the other agent because, Danny DeVito and Schwarzenegger are friends from Twins and everything, but he was unavailable. It's interesting how Matilda handles these FBI agents because she is just so nonchalant every time she says, they're cops. You're being watched by the cops. It's cops. She's not like urgently saying, please, Dad, you have to stop. These guys, they're going to bust you. She's just pointing it out. Matter of fact, they're cops. They're not speedboat salesmen. They're very clearly cops.
Right. And this isn't even a she's a genius thing. It's like you have to be an idiot to not realize that they're cops.
Exactly. I kind of forgot this part of the movie, and I was wondering if she was going to go up to the FBI agents and say, yeah, my dad's a shady guy. Bust him if you want. But actually, first, the headmistress at my school is abusing children. Could you take care of that, or maybe call some other FBI agents and have them investigate this school? Like, that seems like a thing a smart kid would do, right?
Yeah. You have the exit route right there.
Yeah.
However, if we do want to go that route out and go what's the realistic thing, where's she going to end up? She's going to end up in the foster care system, which once in a while you find a wonderful Miss Honey, and sometimes you find people who are not the best foster parents. So I think it all works out in the end.
Of course. And some of the set pieces are genuinely exciting, less so for me as an adult and more for a kid. You know, when they break into the Trunchbull's house and they're running through, narrowly avoiding being captured, they being Matilda and Miss Honey. When Matilda goes back to the house to get the doll, she doesn't break her promise because she promised Miss Honey she wasn't going to go back into the house, but she just uses her telekinesis to get everything from outside. And, you know, the big climactic showdown with Trunchbull where she's using her powers to basically pretend to be Miss Honey's dad as a ghost haunting the Trunchbull. It's over the top, it's silly, but my kids love that stuff. I remember when they were little, they would cheer along because the good guys are winning and the bad guys get their comeuppance.
And it's so clear who the bad guys are in this film. I mean, Miss Trunchbull, she's absolutely bonkers insane.
Yes.
When we see her alone at night, what does she do? She throws javelins into her wall.
Right.
You know, she's so cartoonishly evil. I find it interesting that they gave her this shot put, hammer throw backstory.
Yeah.
Because men and women who do shot put and hammer throw, they are very big people. It's an interesting choice because when people want to showcase strength, they might show other things like they're weightlifters or something. But to make her a shot putter and just making her toss the children like shot puts and hammer throws, I thought it was comical just how they incorporate that, because I've never seen shot put or hammer throw incorporated into anything. Javelin, I can only think of Revenge of the Nerds, but it's interesting that no one's ever incorporated like discus or anything like that into any kind of mainstream film. I think this is honestly the first shot put or hammer throw I've ever seen in a mainstream film.
James, I want you to write up a script for a movie about discus, a discus player, or maybe a whole discus team, and there's discus rivalries with all of the different discus throwers, and the movie could be called Discus.
I think it should probably be called Discus !
Okay, it's your pitch. I'll work on it with you. I'm into that. She's also insane because she despises children and she works as a headmistress at a school. You know, do something that'll give you joy. If you hate kids, why are you working at this school? Doesn't really make much sense there.
It's for the same reason that a lot of doctors would never be in pediatrics because, yeah, they don't like kids. But I would not want to be an adult doctor. That's why I don't do it. There are sometimes people that do these things, Al, and I can see it, and they're miserable, and they take it out on the people that they have to work with. But I think at least explaining her backstory, I think that could be interesting. Where did someone like Miss Trunchbull come from? Because there's a little backstory about where she came from, but I probably want to know what her backstory is.
Did you see the movie Weapons that came out last year?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Very, very different movie from Matilda in many, many ways. But there is a relative who comes to stay with this family and oops, she's evil and causes all kinds of chaos, which is the Trunchbull Miss Honey backstory. I do want to say, though, even though it is very, very clear that Miss Trunchbull is evil and is the villain of the movie, I also think the Wormwoods are evil and villains in the story, too. I think one of this movie's strengths is that it shows physical abuse and emotional abuse. Those things are different. They look different, but they're both abuse. And yes, the Wormwoods do the right thing by signing those adoption papers at the very end, but they're still terrible people who are abandoning their daughter because, we never really liked her anyway.
I think that the Wormwoods are within the realm of redemption by doing the one thing that they could do, by recognizing you're an awful person, not meant to be a parent. And then you find this wonderful angel of a person, Miss Honey, who would give your daughter such a better life than they could have. And the bad parenting that the Wormwoods did too, they did not cross into, you cannot redeem yourself from this kind of bad stuff. They made her watch TV when she wanted to read. They wouldn't let her go to school when she wanted to go to school. Horrible people. But I think that their act in the end was a kind act of redemption. And I can almost kind of do my own headcanon that they get caught. I think it's funny that they say Guam because obviously when you're a criminal, you want to flee to like somewhere where the U.S. is not going to like be able to get you.
Right.
And I think most Americans know that Guam is a U.S. territory. So
yes,
while it is, it's way out there, it's, way out in the Pacific Ocean, it's not a smart thing to do.
It is America.
But also maybe the fact that he's saying we're going to escape to Guam, now we know you're going to get caught. He's a stupid criminal. And
right.
I kind of like the ending for them because it's ambiguous. I think that these people are redeemable. Miss Trenchball, not.
I don't think it is redemption. 6.5 years of child abuse is not redeemed by signing her away. Emotional abuse is a difficult thing to convey. It's a difficult thing for people to wrap their head around. If someone tells you, hey, James, my parents abused me when I was a kid, and you say, oh my God, what happened? And they say, they neglected me and they made me feel like I was worthless. You might say, well, I guess that's bad, but I mean, some parents aren't great. If someone says, my parents beat the shit out of me, you're like, oh my God, they're monsters. I hate them. Evil. Emotional abuse, it is still abuse.
I'm not denying that. I'm just saying it's kind of this cartoony world where they're like putting sandpaper in the cars because he's a stereotype of a used car salesman with literally slicked back hair. I'm not saying they didn't abuse her. I'm not. And
I know.
I'm just saying that there's a little bit of good in them.
I don't think so, but whatever. I do also think that even though, to your point, yes, the Wormwoods are going to get caught in Guam, we don't see any comeuppance for the Wormwoods. We don't see any real comeuppance for Trunchbull. She leaves the house, maybe gives Miss Honey money. They apparently talk about that more in the book. You kind of get the sense that if Trunchbull killed Miss Honey's dad, she took the house. Presumably she stole the inheritance. It's implied in the movie. And then when Matilda's doing her haunting thing with the chalk, she's like, oh, you have to give Miss Honey the money. It's a little bit like, well, what money? You didn't really explain that. It's implied, whatever, not a big deal. But yeah, maybe she gets away with it. Maybe she moves to another town, finds another school, finds more kids to abuse. Maybe not. Who the hell knows? Maybe she just runs off with some hammer throw, shot put throwers and lives her life not hurting people. But yeah, she's a murderer. We are to assume that she murdered Miss Honey's dad and she gets away with it, which is a little weird.
Yeah, that is a little weird, but I think she gets her comeuppance in this cartoonish way that she's run out of town.
Yes. But James, let me ask you what you think about the movie as a whole. Do you think Matilda stands the test of time?
Yes, I do. I think this was a lovely movie. It's very well directed. I think Danny DeVito gave me a very, very good idea of what kind of movie this is. With the whole cartoonish thing, the cast is fantastic. I think I've said already about all the actors. I did not say enough about Pam Ferris, the woman who plays Miss Trunchbull. I think she's great. She was Mrs. Dursley from the Harry Potter films.
Yeah, the Dursleys in Harry Potter, they're a lot like the Wormwoods.
They're bad, and they treat their older, chubby son, they treat him a lot better. But I also think the young girl that plays a 4-year-old Matilda is also wonderful. She did very well in the beginning there. I just thought the cartoonish violence was cartoonish. I thought all the Iron Maiden stuff was cartoonish. Evil in the way a Looney Tunes character like Elmer Fudd shoots Daffy Duck in the face. But I'm just saying, in the context of Wabbit season, duck season, I understand what's going on and find that funny. No, I don't think shooting ducks and rabbits and anyone in and of itself is funny. So I just think that this is a very cartoonish film. I do think they would have done some stuff differently. I think they would have glossed over the suicide thing. But overall, I found the film pretty delightful. You know, I was also cheering for Bruce when he ate that cake. I thought that was a great scene, involved no magic at all. Overall, I found the film to be lovely. It's a lovely cartoonish Roald Dahl film that, like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, does have its darker parts. But what about you, Al? Do you think that Matilda stands the test of time?
Talking about this movie as a movie about child abuse, I do think that it's probably a good thing that there is a movie like this that kids can watch, kids who are being abused, and can see this message of it can get better. That's Miss Honey's whole backstory, is that she was abused and it gets better. And for Matilda, it gets better. Yeah, there's magic, but still, she is able to overcome this situation. And I feel like that's helpful, right? I'm sure that there are kids out there who were abused, who saw this movie and thought there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, there are a lot of movies about kids who are bullied at school that show the kids triumphing over the bully. This is a different thing, but I think it's still a good message for kids. So I appreciate that. And honestly, I think that's why I'm going to say that the movie does stand the test of time. It's not perfect. I don't think that the movie really nails the balance of dealing with the physical abuse with the comedy. The stuff with the Wormwoods, yeah, it's better at it. I think Danny DeVito and the screenwriters do a good job that honestly could be better. I don't know how. I'm not going to give notes on it. But I also think the character of Miss Honey is a little boring. She doesn't have that much to do. She's just really nice and sweet and kind-hearted.
She's perfect.
Right. She's perfection. Maybe she could have had an Obi-Wan Kenobi moment because Matilda's basically using the Force. Maybe Miss Honey could have taught Matilda how to use her telekinesis or strengthened it or focused it. And Matilda does that on her own with little bitty pretty one playing in the background. That's really fun. That's an adorable little dance. Also, there's some pretty bad green screen in this movie when Trunchbull throws the kid out the window and he goes flying. That is terrible looking green screen for 1996. They could have done better. I guess that was a limitation of the budget. Whatever. I think it's an imperfect movie, but it is charming. I think it's, in a weird way, important. And I think that, yeah, it does stand the test of time. Roald Dahl, by the way, questionable as a person. He's quoted as saying, "I'm anti-Semitic." So fuck that guy. He also criticized Israel, which is different, and you can criticize Israel and not be anti-Semitic, but he did say that the Jews run the media. He said some pretty vile shit.
I've heard questionable things about him, and it's worth bringing up, but I'm judging this film purely on Danny DeVito's take on this film.
Sure, that's fair. This is a very sad thing, but Mara Wilson's mom in real life was dying while they were making this movie. The movie's dedicated to her, and apparently Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman, in complete opposite to their on-screen characters, they were very kind and nurturing towards Mara Wilson while she was going through this. She wanted to finish the movie. Danny DeVito showed a rough cut of the movie to her mom before she passed away, so she was able to see her daughter in this starring role. Mara Wilson only has wonderful things to say about Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman all these years later. Also, Robin Williams, her co-star from Mrs. Doubtfire, she talks about how great those adults were for her as a child actor.
Yeah, she pops up on like social media and stuff once in a while.
Yeah, she advocates for LGBTQ stuff. She's bisexual. Yeah, talks about the microscope that she was under and a lot of young actors and female celebrities are under. She's doing good work.
Do you know who her cousin is?
No. Oh, yes. It's fuck that guy. Ben Shapiro, right?
Yeah, Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, and they don't talk because he's a right-wing fucking troll, and she is a kind, decent human. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Come back next week when we'll be talking about A Knight's Tale, starring the late Heath Ledger. That movie came out 25 years ago. I've never seen it, but I'm looking forward to talking about that. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. We are at Tested Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. Write to us. Let us know your thoughts on Matilda, on Danny DeVito, on Laura Wilson, on The Trunchbull, on being forced to eat a huge, giant chocolate cake. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.